pride. I think it's safe to say that I'm a very curious person, maybe to a fault. When there's a question I want answer to, I go deep and deep on the internet, on research, on pretty much anything that I can find knowledge and facts about to satisfy my thirst for knowledge. But I also know that I can't do that anywhere, anytime. Maybe because it's inappropriate in the situation, maybe because it's just inappropriate of all, or maybe I'm just not being sensitive and just plain rude. And as much as I love to go for knowledge, we have to admit that sometimes we will never find those answers. But when the stars align, you can ask a question that you usually can't ask, because now is the right time and place for it. And this, for me, is one of them. I started to see LGBTQ+ community or pride community being implemented around 2 years ago. Well, I have seen it way before that as well, but 2 years ago it started to roll. And now we are seeing more games having it more frequently. But is that good? Is adding them good? Is the implication even good? And what should we do for the future? Well, to answer that question, I have asked some people, a lot of people, 18 people, that's a lot for me, to be interviewed to ask one question. Is the implication of LGBTQ+ community in games good? Well, actually it's more than one question, because let's be honest, you're asking an interview to only do one question, spending their time schedule. You know what I mean. So let's start with the first question. Is pride in games good? Yes, duh, obviously, everyone agreed that adding LGBTQ+ in game is a good thing. But that is not the main question to ask now, is it? What we are trying to more ask is the implementation of adding the LGBTQ good in execution or not? And that's where things get muddy. I know I'm making a weird face, I can tell it. Let me give you an example. There's been 2 games that I heard a lot during this interview. Overwatch and Last of Us 2. And both have different opinions for different opinions. For Overwatch, some people loved that the characters were part of the community to represent the flag, to be represented. But then the opposite was also true. Some people thought that the game developers or the publishers, they just did it to fill the quota. This character should be gay, this character should be old, or this character should be straight because we have reached a quota of people who are not. And for the sake of transparency, from what I could perceive, no one was aware about the whole Blizzard software agenda logging, cataloging thingy-majig. And for those who were aware because of this interview, I am so sorry for introducing you that. Last of Us 2 has a different problem. Some people like the game's story that just so happened to have lesbian couple. And some just think the game sucks. Nothing to do with the community really, just the game sucks or was good overall. And these 2 games, I'm only talking about people who talked about it as a majority. We did have some people who talked about Borderlands 3 or Celeste or Stardew Valley and so many more that I don't have time to put them in the list or in this video. So we have determined 2 things. 1, people have different opinions, which makes the survey more varied. And 2, people have different opinion, which makes the survey more varied. But we have a pattern. And using these patterns from all the data I have collected, we can see where we can move forward from here. But where to start? How about here? Is adding the pride, the LGBTQ community, a genuine thing from the developers, the game developers, or is it a more of a marketing ploy? And according to the data, it depends. Why do you think game developers are now adding the community in the game? Is it love? Is it marketing ploy? Is it something else?
Well, that does heavily, of course, that does heavily depend on what kind of studio. For example, an indie studio has a lot bigger chance that it really, truly comes out of a place of passion. And a lot of big game developer companies, that they're obviously, a lot of the inspiration is like, you know, it's a good thing to be pro-LGBT. People like that, so it makes money. Not that there's no developers in big, like, AAA teams that aren't genuine about representation, but yeah, bigger companies usually have a more money-focused reason. It's a bit of both, really, but yeah, depends on what kind of game company you're asking.
This was the majority of what people said. Technically, it was unanimous, but some people have stated more so as an individuals or team rather than AAA and indies. But like Kirbinator said, there are some AAA devs who are doing it for passion, and unfortunately, we can say some indie devs can be doing it for marketing ploy as well. I personally can't solidify this opinion for myself, mainly because I just have been playing more indie games than AAA nowadays for various reasons, biggest one being financial. But I have seen a lot of indie games having the community implemented, and from most what I have seen, most are fine. But let's say I want to get into these games and understand the implementations. Where should I start? A lot of people agree to start dipping your toes on RPGs and visual novels, specifically dating sims. But now we have a problem. RPGs are too vast of an answer to pinpoint what kind of RPGs we are talking about. MMO, action, turn-based, something else? And visual novels are, well, they can be too specific. Want a game about dating same-sex, Dungeons and Lesbians, or Starry Flowers? Listen, I'm not saying that these games are bad. In fact, I encourage people to play them. Having these kind of games helps you to have more interesting lookouts or unique lookout and gaining more knowledge when they are hyper-focused. But at the same time, when we have genres like visual novels, they have their own bubbles. And those bubbles are usually only hyper-focused without bringing, like, say, heteros or anything like that. Which is fine, but I want to see more outside the bubbles as well. These people living outside that bubble is something they have to face in real life. But I haven't seen much. If you know any games that I'm talking about, please let me know in the comments below. I'm more than interested to see it. But besides that point, that begs the question, why is it so difficult to implement the community to begin with? Well, some are saying it's because it just is, and yet they are forced to do it.
How hard is it? It all depends. There are sponsors, there are things like that. People that make money. They decide what goes in your game. For me, it's flawless. It's so seamless. It's easy because I work in the visual novel community. Is a community full of people who would love to write that stuff. However, when it comes to, like, for example, Ubisoft made Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Odyssey, and they wanted the main character to just be a girl. But the higher ups, the people who control everything and also make the money, say like, no, we want to advertise this to guys, so we need a guy protagonist too. That's how hard is it, because like the upper folks who have all the money, they're old world folks, and yeah, whatever they say goes, and they don't have the LGBTQ folks at heart when they're thinking about making their money.
Something that I actually have heard about from, I don't know if you're familiar with Warhammer, but they have a lot of like writers and like novels and stuff. They have like briefly mentioned like characters that are LGBTQ in there, but a lot of the guys didn't feel comfortable writing it, or like it would be genuine, because all the writers happen to be heterosexual. So they're like, hey, you know, I don't feel comfortable writing about an experience that I haven't lived myself, or that I can't quite, I guess, do justice to, is the way I would think of it as. Which honestly is how I think queer characters, LGBTQ, whatever terms we're using, you know.
And as much as we want to say that the devs should fight back on what they want, they need a job, to have food on their table, to live on a shelter home. So now what? What should we do if we are going to be writing for a character that is part of the community, whether we like it or not? I think the best thing we can do is research.
I feel, you know, that is the way to go about it. Is, you know, when you talk to some of these people that have had, you know, experiences, you know, in the community, in real life, you are able to come up with a more genuine character, I feel, more often than not. And it's not like we're hard to find. I mean, you know, we're around, depending on where you are in the world, because, you know, some places are not quite as accepting. But yeah, I feel like the biggest way to make a character genuine is to, you know, just, if you can't have like a character be written by somebody that's, you know, a part of the community, if anything, just ask some people. I mean, or, you know, run it by some people, see if they feel that it is pandering or something like that. And I think bottom line is a character being of a orientation apart from heterosexual or something other than cisgender, that should not be the only selling point of a character for me. Like that is the biggest thing, where it's like, okay, they put no effort into the character, there's nothing interesting but the fact that they are not straight, and that's what's annoying to me.
Now, forcing something to be in the game, implementing it, and just making sure it's in the game, it's never a good idea. Don't do it, just don't. But besides that, doing your research and talking to people related to this might be a good idea, because people are willing to talk, more so than you think. Because people don't want a hyper gay with gay vibes because that's their only personality in the game. They are people too, and like everyone else, we have complex personality. So why should they only have one? But let's say you're not pressured, or you're not, you know, forced to do it because of higher ups to implement the community, but more as a socially pressured. Well, I'm happy to report that you don't have to be. Majority of people have agreed that all games, or games that have story elements in it, doesn't need LGBTQ+. It would be nice to have them, but people, even in the community I have interviewed, rather have it in a natural way. Something that was planned out by the beginning, or something that naturally just feels right to make the character part of the pride. But now we are in a strange dilemma. According to my data, not all games should have pride in them, but also having only non-LGBTQ+ can also be ill-advised, because if we don't have them in a frequent matter, are we just avoiding it because it was just a phase? Or because we don't want to force a writing? Majority has said in the future we're gonna see more and more games having pride in them, more frequent than what we are seeing now. But others have also said that there won't be any changes and everything will just be same. In my opinion, the indie teams, the indie games has the strongest to fight for the community. Not only they have various tools and assets that, let's be honest here, anyone can make a game today. Anyone with the access of internet and a computer, you don't even need a computer by this point, you can make it with tablet, anyone can make a game. But the indie teams are their own boss, their own team. They can do whatever they want in their own game. Usually. I say usually because sometimes they can have their own sponsorship, they can have some ads, you get the idea. We need these people. We need these teams to implement the community in the games more and more so that we can have it in more and more eyes to see. Because it's not about only representing them, but also finding people who they are and to prepare about them for real life.
I think that it's great that people are being the community is being implemented in games more often, because it's one of those things that sort of it really represents the community in different ways. It shows more sort of like in certain games it can definitely show like the love that's there, but it also and this is, I suppose it's kind of like, you know, you don't want to see it, but you do also you know, it's also a factor, like the bad side of, like, you know, oh, I'm gay, and there's people that get the, you know, that target you for that, you know. And I think that having that sort of those characters in games, and you have both sides of it, where it's like there's the love, but also people who are against it in games. It can sort of help people that are playing them sort of not even prepare themselves, but to sort of realize that it's like this, you know, like I think that people years and years ago, like, you know, coming out was such a big thing. Coming out is still a big thing nowadays, but being able to be more comfortable with that, they sort of have to realize that there will be people who aren't going to be happy and people who are going to target them and sort of treat them differently. But I think that having characters in games also go through that and sort of see that people, you know, I'm not saying that there should be, you know, haters in games, but it's like there may be characters in games that sort of aren't particularly as happy that they're part of the community, but it sort of prepares them in a way where it's like, okay, this sort of thing could happen to me, and I'm glad that I was able to sort of see it from this piece of media, and that way I don't have to sort of worry about it, you know.
But wouldn't the opposite also be true? Let's say a lot of medias and everything could probably portray them, misinform them, and therefore a lot of information they might think is right is wrong.
That's what happened in the 80s and 90s. A lot of gay content was demonized and satanized and filled with a whole bunch of inaccuracies. So you are very correct. Media has every single power in the world to just start blackballing the community and misinforming the public and so on and so forth. But now you have a very active LGBTQ community that kind of has their fingers in a little bit of everything, who are probably either A, going to get the content corrected, or B, get it taken down in general. Because now in certain legislatures across the world, it's now known as defacing. So there is now actual legal backing behind these allegations. So you are 100% correct. There's a possibility for people to like start blackballing. Same thing is going on with the trans community, like just focus down as a whole. That's becoming a problem, and I hope that it goes to the same like hills and valleys that the LGBT community as a whole has gone through, where it's like you have this movement, and then you have a whole bunch of criticism, and then you have this movement and criticism. Seems to be more extreme for the hills and valleys, but it seems to be going through the same dips and curves. I'm just hoping that people have learned that making a community look bad doesn't make it go away.
Medias are powerful. Words and actions are powerful. And with great power comes great responsibility. We have reached the point where not all games can be fun anymore. Some can be, but some can't anymore. And we need to show that the LGBTQ plus community, and beyond that, we need to show them genuine, natural, and positive. But when is it the right time to show a bad guy who just so happened to be part of the community, or a final puzzle piece of a clue or a murder case that solves everything because someone was part of the community, or something else? When is it the right time to show things? Now? Later? I don't know. We need to work this together. I'll leave you guys with this. When I planned this interview, when I wanted to ask people to be interviewed, I thought that we were going to have more people who were not part of the community than people who were to be interviewed. Only 6 people who were not part of the community got interviewed. And 3 of them I really had to search for them because I didn't want us to be outnumbered. And we were outnumbered. People want to talk. The community want to talk. So talk. Fight and think. Because we can change the people's future. We just need to know how. Hello connectors, WeirdoMaxim here. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment and subscribe and share it with your friends and family. It will mean the world to me. Thank you to everyone who was part of this interview, who got and who spent time to be recorded and be interviewed. You helped me a lot for this video. Those who want to promote their work and are not anonymous, their promotions will be in the description. Some of them has tried to promote their charity they like, and some of them are just promoting their work. Either way, please check them out. They help me a lot. I'm rambling now, so once again, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye bye.